Welcome in, belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some wingman fantasy poop ball. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 101, I don't know how to say that, 101, Week 4's two-point conversation, and it is my great, deep pleasure to welcome into the bar, once again, Mr. Bernie, a.k.a. Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
How you holding on tonight, Bernie?
I am holding on for dear life. I'm feeling better than Rashi Rice, but I'm still a little bit numb. Come talk to me on Monday night.
All right, guys. So in this episode, let's see, where was I left off at here? In this episode, we will start off with some player news. We'll also go through the studs and the duds for Week 4, and we'll also settle into a very nice conversation, our Week 4's two-point conversation, where we discuss all of the weekend's NFL action and we console each other on the poor fantasy play. But before we do that, let's make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingmen assemble! All right, now that everyone is here, let's get right into it. Let's check in on the player news. All right, guys, this week we had a couple players that started out the week inactive as Cooper Kupp missed his second consecutive week for the Rams. A.J. Brown got back on the practice field just to tease us a little bit, but he did, in fact, miss his third consecutive game. And Tank Dell was also inactive this week, the Sunday's game against the Jaguars. And his teammate Joe Mixon, who got back on the field similar to A.J. Brown, but in the end was not healthy enough to go. He was inactive for Week 4. In a late week injury, Devontae Adams suffered a hamstring injury about Thursday or Friday, and he was not able to play this weekend against the Browns. Kenneth Walker, Texas Ranger, he is off the injury report and looks like he is going to be able to go later tonight in the last game of the week against the Detroit Lions. This is no turning back if you have him in your lineup. And we have Keenan Allen, who's back on the field trying to get in shape. In his horrible game against the Rams today. Jordan Love was back on the field, and this was a weird game. Stats were heavy. Play was not great, but he was back on the field, and this just put Malik Neighbors back to the bench. Deebo Samuel returned to practice late in the week, and he made it back on to the field, as did his teammate George Kittle, who was active this week, caught a touchdown and looked like he got a little banged up. I'm actually not sure of his status going forward. Now for I was going to call them knuckleheads, but that's not fair. Our guys with head injuries, Devontae Smith, Austin Eckler, and Trey McBride all missed the Sunday's contest with concussions that they sustained in the previous week's games. Jaylen Warren was inactive for Sunday's game against the Colts, making way for Cordero Patterson to get some early work, and he did just that. Unfortunately, he was not able to finish the game as he left today with an injury. Oh, this one's tough. I'm so sorry to say it. I really am. Rashi Rice went down with what appeared to be a major knee injury. An MRI later in the week will confirm the severity of the injury, but there is not much optimism in that Kansas City Chiefs locker room. Christian Watson also left the game very early in this game with an apparent ankle injury, and he did not return as well. Anthony Richardson got off to a kind of a hot start, but he left the game as he got a hip injury as he got nailed in the back of the buttocks area on a run. He came back to the sideline, looks like he was moving okay, said he didn't quite have the power to push off the back of his leg. Making way for the old man, Joe Flacco was back on the field, and he did exactly what we thought he would do if he ever got a chance to play, peppering Michael Pittman Jr. and leading the Colts to a victory. Let's see if they stick with try and get Richardson back in the lineup, or old Joe's going to stay in there and use a little more of that magic in his arm. All right, before we get further along here in the studs and duds, there's a lot of news there. A couple of those players are your players, Bernie. What do you have to add or contribute to any of those news or notes right there?
Oh yeah, so Rashi Rice automatically was an O when he went out on the fantasy board. And then I got a notification that his O went to a D, so it's doubtful. So we'll see what the MRI says. That was friendly fire as well. That was a hit that by Mahomes. Mahomes was going in to try to get that loose ball and nailed him. So that sucks. But as far as Ken Walker, I'm excited to see what happens. If for some reason right before game time he can't go and it's a Monday night game, I actually also have JMO. I've got Jameson Williams
Oh, that's right.
on my bench, so I can plug and play. But I need 16 and a half points to take the win. At least 16 and a half points. And so that's a tough call though.
So I
Tough.
wasn't
Yeah,
I
tough
wasn't
call.
staring at your starting lineup, but just the way I remembered it, it seemed like you made some moves this morning or last night even. Walker was someone you had on your bench. You threw him in, and I feel like you had
Yep.
someone else that you either put in or took out kind of last minute.
Yeah, it was Jameson Williams. I took him out last minute. It was deciding between him and Pickens, and I knew I was going to run with Fields, so I wanted to give Pickens a shot again. So it was a little shuffling going on. So we'll see how it plays out.
Well, you guys scored well. You're just up against a juggernaut right now.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys. It's time to get into our studs and duds.
Wingman Fantasy Football Studs and Duds.
All right, we're going to start this one with our studs. Let's start with the good news first, and I'm going to let Bernie start reading off our studs for week 4.
Oh, and I like it because I look at 3 quarterbacks off the top. Baker, the baby maker, Mayfield, 28.88 points, 347 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. He was dealing. Jaden Daniels, the Rook is on fire, man. 26.02 points, 233 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 47 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. What? Sam Darnold. I'm happy for Sam. 24.5 points, 275 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 15 rushing yards. And Jaden Reed, 23.9 points, 7 receptions for 139 yards and a touchdown.
So both of Jaden Reed's best games are with Jordan Love. So it appears, at least at a glance, that Jaden Reed is a superstar if Love is on the field.
Yeah, looks like it.
All right, this guy got some late points for me. I stopped watching because I was tired of being in the fetal position all day. But Jordan Mason made the stud list with 123 yards, 2 receptions for 37 yards, and a touchdown. And there was also a horrible holding. We'll mention the 2-point conversation, but I'll just do it because I'm already started. A horrible holding call against Kittle that took away a nice receiving touchdown early in the game for Jordan Mason. So he had even a bigger day. Another Green Bay wide receiver Dontavian Wicks had 22.3 points with 5 receptions, 78 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Chase Brown had 22.2 points with 92 total yards and 2 touchdowns. And Jordan Addison made it back onto the field, and his presence was immediately felt as he had 21.4 points. He only had 3 catches, had 79 total yards, and I believe he had 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing and 1 receiving. Here's one of your favorite players next up on the list.
Oh yeah, my boy. He's a stud. Alvin Kamara, 21.4 points. It could have been more, but Taysom Hill was vulturing some touchdowns. 7 receptions, 119 total yards with 1 touchdown. Then we've got CD Lamb, 20.1 points, 7 receptions, 105 total yards, and 1 touchdown. And this guy, Chuba Hubbard, is he on the waiver wire still, or did somebody listen to our advice and pick him up? 20.1 points, 4 receptions, 121 total yards, and 1 touchdown.
This might be the first top of the list waiver ad this year that actually performed the week after he was picked up. I think so far all the other guys were picked up and had duds right after it. So this was the most money spent on a player this year, but it seemed to be money well spent, at least in the short term here. All right.
He paid too much.
Yeah. Other players that made the list, I didn't even know. Let's see if you can guess what player this team is. What team this player is on. As Jeremy McNichols. No, he is not your local real estate agent. He is a football player. He is a running back. He had 19.9 points, 74 total yards, and 2 touchdowns for what team? The Commanders. He took the Austin Eckler role, and he did exactly what Eckler's been doing, except he added some late touchdowns and a blowout of a game. And Mike Evans, as long as he's not up against Patrick Surtain, is on the stud list. Once again, our old friend at Mike Evans had 19.4 points with 8 receptions, 94 yards, and 1 score. Brian Thomas Jr. had 18.9 points. One of the only strong players for the Jaguars as he had 6 receptions for 99 yards and 1 touchdown. And we have Brian Robinson Jr. also for the Commanders. We have 2 Commanders running backs on this list, as Robinson Jr. had 18.8 points with 113 total yards. He collected 3 receptions and he scored a touchdown.
All right, moving on. My opponent I played this week had this guy, Kyron Williams, at 18.4 points, 4 receptions, 104 total yards, and 1 touchdown. But I canceled out his points because I have this guy, Jonathan Taylor, on my team with 18.3 points, 3 receptions, 118 total yards, and 1 touchdown. Josh Downs, 18.2 points, 8 receptions, 82 yards, and a touch. And Deontay Johnson coming alive this week, 17.8 points, 7 receptions, 83 yards, and a touch.
I think this is going to be the theme. These middle to quality receivers on bad teams that now are getting upgrades with their journeyman quarterbacks are going to start making these guys have a little more value going forward. All right, James Sweet Feet Connor coming back to life. He's the only player for the Cardinals who did anything. He had 17.8 points with 103 total yards and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson had 17.5 points with 6 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. And Malik, won't you be my neighbor? Had 17.5 with 12 receptions and 115 yards. Do you remember what the record was last year for Puka Nacua? I think it was yards, wasn't it, for a rookie?
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't know what the record is for receptions, but Malik Neighbors has got to be on pace. Oh, no, I think it was I don't know who it was, but he's got to be on pace for most receptions for a rookie. It might have been a Jalen Waddle who might have a record like that, but I'm not sure. But he's just getting 10 receptions every game. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Also, to finish off this list, we have some kickers and defenses. Greg Joseph, where's he playing now? Giants?
Yes.
He got picked up for the Giants on the injury from Gano. Right. He had 19 points on Thursday night with 5 field goals, including 1 from 50 yards. And Joshua Carty, the rookie who likes to party for the Rams, had 15 points with 4 field goals, including a field goal over 50 yards. The Atlanta defense did all of the scoring for the Falcons today, as they were the Dirty Birds, getting 15 points with 1 sack, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, but 2 touchdowns. And another defense made this list as the San Francisco defense that also had 15 points, and they were a little more dominating all over the place with 6 sacks, 1 interception, 2 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown. Now, whenever you go with the good, you got to go to the bad, and we're moving along to the duds. Why don't you start us off with our dud list?
Wow, it's very similar to the start of the stud list. A bunch of quarterbacks at the top. Aaron Rodgers, 11.6 points. Sorry, Aaron. Sorry, not sorry. Caleb Williams, 11.48. Keep your head up, rookie. You're going to only get better because you're at the bottom. Justin Herbert, 11.16. He got a big hit early in that game. I might have been the first play of that game, and he looked like he was struggling from the get-go. Derek Carr, 10.06 points. That's because Taysom was doing some dirty work.
All right. I hate to say it. My start of the week, and on my team as well, I put in Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray only got 9.98 points, couldn't even get double digits. And his friend Kirk Cousins was not any better, getting only 9.52 points. And the rookie, Bo Nix, coming off of his first good game last week stat-wise, although the Broncos have now won 2 games in a row, but he could only get 6.7 points. And Anthony Richardson did leave the game in the first, I think it was the first quarter, if not very early in the second, with an injury. He can only get 5.24 points.
And we've got Mr. Garrett Wilson, probably that had something to do with Mr. Surtain, 6.6 points. Travis Etienne, 6.5 points. Romeo Dobbs, Michael likes to say Dubs, though. Romeo Dobbs, 5.9 points. And Brandon Ayuk, 5.8 points.
Ayuk's been on this list every single week. And Surtain has, for the 4th straight week, kept the number 1 receiver on the opponent team in the dud list. Congratulations to you, Surtain. That money is well earned. All right, now on to more players on this dud list. Amari Cooper coming off one of his best games of the season, returned back to the duds, getting only 5.5 points. The Zamir White looked a little better today, but still could only get 5.0 points. Demarcus Robinson, one of our higher price free waiver wire pickups over the last couple weeks, has been in the dud list ever since at 4.7 points. And this one hurt a lot of fantasy managers out there in the world, as Devin Singletary had 2 straight weeks of very strong play against a run defense that was giving up big numbers to running backs. But Devin Singletary could only get 4.3 points on the Thursday night game.
Then we move on to a rookie, Brock Bowers, tight end on somebody's team, I believe. 4.1 points for Mr. Brock Bowers. And Keenan Allen, he's coming back. So, maybe it's a stepping stone. 3.4 points. Ezekiel Elliott, go get a running back, Nick. 2.9 points. And Breece Hall, 2.8 points. And I'm going to tell you, what I saw in this game was Breece Hall missed a block. Aaron got hit. And I believe Aaron took it personally, and he really didn't want to give Breece the ball again.
That might be the lowest score of a highest draft pick who didn't leave the game due to injury. The 2.8 points for Breece Hall. All right, Rome Odunze off of his best game of his career last week with over 20 points. Last week got put into a starting lineup to do what any receiver on Amazing Spidey's team does. He duds. Rome Odunze gets only 1.5 points, and Alec Pierce without the bomb thrower of Anthony Richardson was non-existent when it comes to a quality quarterback from Joe Flacco, who was able to hit guys on the quick outs. He got only 1.4 points, and Carson Steele, his shelf life is short, and it might be over, as Kareem Hunt got a lot of work today. It's Carson Steele can only get 1.1 points, and our last 2 players here left the game early with injuries, and due to that reason, they both got 0 points, as Rashee Rice had 0.0 points, and Christian Watson had 0.0 points. All right, let's not end on such bad news. Let's move to some better players who had a great day today.
Mecha Studs.
All right, our Mecha Studs this week. The list is a little shorter than I'd like to see it, but here we go. Jordan, all you need is love, had 34.16 points. This game was a little up and down, but in comeback mode, they were throwing the ball and getting touchdowns, as Jordan Love had 389 passing yards in his return today with 4 passing touchdowns, including a 2-point conversion. Also, Justin Fields got put into the starting lineup today for a very wise manager.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
And like we said before, he's either a 34-point scorer or an 11-point scorer, and he's holding on to form here, as he had 33.98 points today. A costly mistake late in the game when they're trying to come back, or maybe not a mistake, but just didn't connect, as he had 312 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 55 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. A great day for Mr. Fields. And our start of the week from Amazing Spidey here, Nico Collins was the highest scoring player who wasn't a quarterback at 12 receptions, 151 yards, and 1 touchdown, equaling 27.1 fantasy points. And this one hurts a little too much. DeAndre Swift, after the cakewalk of a matchup last week, getting duds, had a nice matchup once again, but we thought he was going to be benched, but he had a couple long runs, and they just kept feeding the beast. DeAndre Swift had 26 points against me today, at 93 yards, 93 rushing yards, 7 receptions, 72 receiving yards, and a touchdown. A great day for DeAndre Swift. Not only did he have a great day, but amazing that he was in the lineup. Good job for you, Ben. That is a brilliant move for Ben's brilliant team. And our last player on the Mecha Studs, Young Shui Koo, made the list at 20 points, making a game-winning field goal of over 58 yards. He finished the day with 4 field goals, 2 of those at over 50 yards, and the 2 extra points today. What a great day for young Shui Koo. And I know that was a double-edged sword for you, as it was your hometown team or local team, but you were going against them in your fantasy team, and that might be the difference in this game for you this week.
Well, it wasn't just Young Shui Koo I was going against on this list. Nico Collins was also on Mac Daddy 2's team, so he had 2 Mecha Studs. I only had 1 Mecha Stud. That's okay. I still got Ken Walker.
And the good, like you said, you have that backup plan that even if something happens or something a little sketchy about, you hear some news
JMO can make it happen, man. I
mean,
believe in
Jameson Williams
JMO.
is definitely slowing down from what he started off with, but it's still a pivot. That's one of the better pivots you could have.
Yeah, his ceiling is definitely above what I need. So yeah.
All right, guys. After the studs and duds here, it is now time to settle in to our 2-point conversation.
Is Jack Del Rio going to go for 2 here,
He's
Rick?
going for 2.
The Raiders will go for 2 and the probable victory with 47 seconds left.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Wingman Fantasy Football's 2-point conversation.
And it's good! Oh my goodness!
All right, why don't you start us off? What game are we starting with this time around?
All right, let's go to the Thursday night game. Let's recap that real fast if we can. Dallas at the Giants. Dallas wins this game 20-15. We got Dak Prescott on the Dallas side with 22 of 27 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Dowdle 11 for 46 in the air, 1 for 15 on the ground, but he did get that rushing touchdown. Okay, so as I go through these box scores, there are going to be some names on here that I've never said before, and I don't really know how to say them properly, so I apologize in advance. Luke 2 for 8 in the air and 2 for 14 on the ground. I don't know who that is, but he did better than Zeke. 5 for 19 on the ground and 1 for 5 in the air. Their rushing game is not that great. So their receiving game, though, the CD Lamb 7 for 98 with the touch. Ferguson 7 for 49. Tolbert 3 for 24, and Brandon Cooks bringing it up 1 for 16.
So it seems to me that Rico Dowdle slower than we thought he would be, but he's definitely creeping into taking over that backfield. I don't know if they're going slow because of maybe what he's doing in practice, or they just want to ease him in or whatever. But he's getting more and more work earlier and earlier, and he's getting a little bit more productive each game. Last game having a touchdown. So definitely hold on to Rico Dowdle. It's just a matter of time before he becomes their main guy. And their offense, they're passing offense, but they can be balanced. I think once they settle in, I think they want to be balanced if they can do it. So definitely keep an eye on Dowdle there. And also for the Cowboys here, there wasn't much scoring in this game, but Brandon Aubrey once again made 2 long kicks, one over 60 yards, another one over 50, and he missed his first kick of the season. I believe it was his first miss near the end of the game to make an 8-point game. Would have sealed it where they couldn't lose on the next score. But he did miss a 50-plus yard kick, leaving the door open for the Giants. But I think the Giants threw an interception on their last play of the game, trying to go for a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe, possibly, yes. So on the Giants side, Daniel Jones, 29 of 40 for 281 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. He only rushed 4 times for 3 yards. So that's something that Daniel can do better at. Mr. Singletary, 14 for 24 on the ground, 1 for 14 in the air. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 4 for 2 on the ground, 1 for 19 in the air. Eric Gray, 1 for 1. Nobody cares. Malik Neighbors, 12 for 115. Wandale Robinson, 11 for 71. Slayton, 3 for 56. And Theo Johnson, 1 for 6. Nothing exciting happening here on the Giants.
No, there wasn't much offense in this game, really. A couple quick scores for Dallas, and it seemed like they were able to just coast on that 14-point lead early or whatever, double score lead early. Exactly. And it stinks because that Singletary was, Shakir's catching a long pass. I shouldn't have dropped that guy, right? I knew I shouldn't have done it. But it seemed like Singletary finally got the trust of some of his managers out there, and they finally put him in the lineup, and it did not come to pass. Oh, I want to mention one more thing, actually, now thinking about it. I don't know if I was going to rant about it. These Thursday games, guys are getting hurt all the time. I hate it. Player safety. Stop doing these Thursday games. All these concussions coming to these Thursday games. Big players getting hurt. I don't know why it's so hard. I mean, I'm sure there's union rules. Why don't they have the Thursday games after the bye?
Yeah.
It shortens their off week. I get it. But it's like these Thursday games after Sunday games, it's too tight. These guys are coming in either banged up, they're not playing well, there's penalties all the time, and some big name guys are getting hurt.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. All right, moving on to Denver at the Jets. Denver takes this in a 1-point victory, 10-9, putting both teams at 2-2. Bo Nix on the Denver side, 12 of 25 with 60 yards, 1 touch, 5 for 3 on the ground. Then we've got Williams on the ground, 16 for 77. McLaughlin 9 for 46. Bidet, he had one rush and he got hurt. We don't know the extent of what happened there, but he got shaken up and carted off on a stretcher.
Oh no.
Yeah. He was already off the field when it happened. He was at the sideline and something happened. Then we've got Mr. Burton 1 for 3. Nothing going on there. In the air, just Sutton 3 for 60 in the air. Denver with a win, and they didn't really do anything.
Was it offensive ineptitude or just they were just playing it safe because their defense was dominating so much today?
No, the Jets defense was taking it to them, and it was a rainy day. The rain was coming in light, and then it would come in heavy at times. There was a lot of balls that were thrown that were just, you could see as soon as the ball was thrown, it's like, oh, that's a wet ball. That's not going where it's supposed to be going. So weather and good defense on the Jet side. Good defense on the Denver side as well. So
yeah, it's hard for me to watch Denver now. I watched them those first 3 weeks, and I just kind of they didn't make that cut today. What'd you notice in the backfield between McLaughlin and Javonte Williams?
So Williams was definitely the go-to back on this one. McLaughlin, I think, has a little bit more speed. He is a little bit more shiftier than Williams. So I don't think that played a big part with the weather in this game. So I think it might just be a 50-50 for now. But I think going forward, McLaughlin looks to me to be the better back from previous games, just not this game.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we got for the Jets here?
Yeah. So on the Jet side, we've got Rodgers 24 for 42 for 225, no touchdowns. He did rush 5 times for 26 yards though. Then we had Allen on the ground, 8 for 34, 1 for 12 in the air. Breece Hall, 10 rushes for 4 yards, 2 receptions for 14 yards. We got Williams in the air, leading receiver, 4 for 67. Lazard, 5 for 58. Garrett Wilson, 5 for 41. Conklin, 4 for 17. And then we got a couple of scrubs at the bottom. Ruckert, 2 for 10. And Gibson, 1 for 6.
Sounds like a lot of short passing today.
Oh, yeah. For 42 attempts and not really rushing the ball at all. It was a lot.
You mentioned in your last 4th and long, which players whine to the refs. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is more just whine to his own teammates or his coaches.
Maybe he did not look happy. He did get a couple of his patented penalties at the line of scrimmage and took some deep shots downfield. But Allen did miss a block, and Rodgers was sacked a couple times, especially on a 3rd down. I saw he was sacked, lost the yardage, and then they had to kick away. So Williams did look good though. Williams looked strong. So I don't know if he is on anybody's roster. He might be on somebody's roster.
He's not. I drafted him and I dropped him when I needed some space, and he's still out there at the moment.
So if he still goes on this trajectory, then between Wilson and him against a not so good defense, they're gonna put up some points.
All right.
So, all right. Moving on to Minnesota at Green Bay. Minnesota takes the victory, 31-29, barely. Minnesota is now undefeated, 4-0. It's Sam Darnold, 20 of 28, 275, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Also had 7-15 on the ground. Jones, 22 for 93 on the ground and 4 for 46 in the air. Chandler had 3 for 5 on the ground and 1 for 8 in the air. Then Mr. Addison, 3 for 72 and a touch in the air and 1 for 7 on the ground with a touch. So he had a passing and a rushing touchdown there. Jefferson, 6 for 85 and a touch. Oliver, 2 for 10 and a touch. Naylor, only 1 reception for 31 yards though. And then a couple of scrubs at the bottom here. Munt and Sheffield Senior, both 15 yards and 8 yards. So they started off hot in this game.
So yeah, this game was close by the end, but Minnesota came out firing. They're up 28-zip right off the bat, and so they were kind of playing back a little bit to just kind of salt away the game. And the Packers did have some good plays late, but they just dug themselves in too big of a hole. There's one play in particular that really upset me as a fantasy manager, and we're going to mention that right here. So there was a play that they I think it was late in this. There was a clock. The clock was an issue, so maybe it was the end of the first half, and they got down to what looked like a touchdown at first. I don't know if it was Dobbs or not. Someone caught the ball in the end, got their hands on the ball in the end zone, but bobbled it as they were coming forward. So they technically didn't catch the ball till they're outside of the end zone. And I'm like, all right, Josh Jacobs, let's go. 1 inch touchdown. Let's do this. And the clock was running since it wasn't a touchdown. And Matt LaFleur tried to call a timeout. They didn't grant him the timeout, and he flipped out on the refs, saying, why you didn't call the timeout? And they gave him a penalty. They gave the coach a 15-yard penalty, taking back my Jacobs layup, and they ended up scoring a touchdown. It was a passing touchdown, again, by Jordan Love, but we need all the help we can get for this Jacobs. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet. This guy hasn't scored a touchdown yet. And every time they get down the 1 yard line, something happens, a penalty or some dumb play. And this was one of those where the coach took him out of the easy touchdown. And it ended up not hurting. They scored, but it hurt me, hurt my heart, and made me very upset.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, on the Green Bay side, Jordan Love, he did have to throw a lot to come back in this game. 32 of 54, 389 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, though. And then he had 1 for 6 on the ground. And the running backs, Jacobs, 9 for 51 on the ground, 4 for 27 in the air. And then Wilson, 8 for 27 on the ground. Reed had the big day, 7 for 139 with a touch in the air. Wicks, 5 for 78 and 2 touchdowns in the air. Kraft, 6 for 53 and a receiving touchdown. Dobbs, only 4 for 39. And then we've got our scrubs at the bottom here. Melton, 1 for 28. Musgraves, 3 for 13. And Heath, 2 for 12.
The Packers actually had more chances to come back in this game. They actually, as they were coming back, they had a couple turnovers. They got it down to 1 score, and then they turned it over the next time. Then they scored again, and then they turned it over again. So they had like 6 chances to get those 3 scores in the fourth quarter, and they gave the ball away just too many times.
Yeah, and he was dealing. Love threw it to 8 different receivers. So, all right, moving on. New Orleans at Atlanta. This was a rough one to watch, but I'm happy that they got the win. Both teams are 2-2. Atlanta wins this one 24-26. On the New Orleans side, we have Carr, 28 for 36, 239, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. He had 3 for 5 on the ground as well. Running backs, Kamara, 19 for 77 with 1 touchdown, rushing touchdown, and 7 for 42 in the air. Williams, 3 for 11 on the ground and 2 for 8 in the air. Taysom Hill, Vulture, Mr. Vulture Hill, 6 for 24 on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. Rashid Shaheed, 8 for 83 in the air and 2 for 14 on the ground. Mr. Olave, 8 for 87. And then the scrubs, Johnson, 2 for 13, and Tipton, 1 for 6.
Yeah, this game, I don't understand these teams. The Packers did it a little bit too, especially in that in the first half. They had these big time running backs and Bijan Robinson in this case, and every time it's an important play, they're like, "Nope, we need Algier. He's the guy we trust." If you don't trust this guy, then I don't know, change your philosophy here or something. Like they keep saying this guy's the best player. We're going to feature him, and then when they give him the ball, but when it's important plays, he's not on the field.
All right, yeah. Atlanta side, we got Cousins, 21 for 35, 238, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Mr. Robinson, 7 for 28 on the ground, 4 for 46 in the air. Algier, 8 for 60 on the ground, 2 for 20 in the air. London, 6 for 64, McLeod, 6 for 42, and Mooney, 3 for 56. It doesn't look like a winning team's box score on the offensive side because the defense and special teams did all the heavy lifting.
It looks to me like Mooney's kind of playing like the number 1 receiver for that team right now.
Yeah, he is. He had a couple of long passes that I saw, so he did a good job. 3 for 56 is not bad for 3 receptions. So, okay.
Josh Allen just got wrecked. Wow. Ow. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. All right. Philly at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay wins this one undecisively, 16-33, putting Philly at 2-2 and Tampa Bay at 3-1. On the Philly side, we got Jalen Hurts, 18 of 30 for 158, 1 touch, 8 for 20 on the ground. 1 passing touchdown, 8 for 20 on the ground with 1 rushing touchdown. Barkley, 10 for 84 on the ground, 2 for 32 in the air. Gainwell had 2 for 9 on the ground. Campbell, 4 for 17 in the air with 1 touchdown. Goddard, 7 for 62. Calcaterra, 1 for 26. Dotson, 2 for 11. Ross, 1 for 6. Stoll, 1 for 4.
This one was like a lot of the games today that the one team came out on fire, getting a big lead early, and it just made these games not very fun to watch because there was chances for points to come back later, but like that, the Green Bay game was a little bit of an exception because it got a little dicey at the end, but like just one team just dominating that first 15 to 20 minutes of the game, and it was like, all right, what are we doing here, guys? There's no chance for the script to go how you might want it to go. It's one one dimensional here, and the Bucs started out doing whatever they wanted to do, and obviously we have a lot of injuries in the receiving core, especially for the for the Eagles. But it seems like Hurts needs to have players that, like, he's a good quarterback, but he needs to have the attention drawn away from him for him to have those nice runs. When everyone's watching him, he can't make other players better, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, this was a running game for sure. Barkley looked like a stud. The receiving just didn't happen in this game. And
what did Barkley finish with again? I'm sorry.
10 for 84 on the ground and 2 for 32 in the air.
Okay.
But Hurts had the rushing touchdown. So, all right, on the Tampa Bay side, Baker Mayfield, 30 for 47, 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 4 rushing attempts for 10 yards and a touchdown, though. Mr. Bucky Irving, 10 for 49 and a touch on the ground, 1 for 6 in the air. White, 10 for 49 on the ground, 2 for 35 in the air. And Tucker got involved a little bit in the run game, 1 for 3 on the ground and 1 for 14 in the air.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
On the receiving side, we have Evans, 8 for 94 and a touch. Palmer, 3 for 26 and a touch. And then Godwin, 6 for 69. Otten, 6 for 52. And Shepard, 3 for 51.
So I made a mistake last week. I was getting players confused. I thought with the running backs for the Tampa Bay, Bucky Irving is number 7 and Rachaad White's number 1. Mm-hmm. And I guess, I don't know, at a glance, when I was looking in the corner, I always thought they were the different guys. When I was saying like Bucky Irving or Rachaad White's moving around, making some good plays, it was always Bucky Irving that was doing that. So makes sense why the stats didn't line up to the eye test there. Yeah, Bucky Irving's been the one who's been a lot more juice. You've all known that, but it seems like Rachaad White had a little bit better day today.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Tampa Bay was rolling, so they could really do no wrong on that one. All right, moving on to Cincinnati at Carolina. Both teams are now 1-3. Cincinnati wins this game 34-24. Burrow was 22 of 31, 232 yards, 2 touches, and 1 interception. He had 1 rush for 10 yards. On the ground, we have Brown, 15 for 80 with 2 touchdowns and 2 for 12 in the air. Moss was 15 for 51 on the ground, but he was 4 for 27 in the air with a receiving touchdown. Chase was 3 for 85 and a receiving touchdown. Higgins, 6 for 60. All Jr., 4 for 28. Oh, this guy can't even say his name. Iovas, 1 for 29. He had a big catch, but I can't say his name.
I think it's like Yeshivas.
There you go. And that's all for them.
So we they were the start of the week here. It was Zach Moss. Both running backs actually had a pretty good day. I would say I wouldn't say that one was a loss here because both of them scored touchdowns today. But we had the question: did the offense, which still played well today for the Panthers, was that the correction needed to save their defense, their rushing defense, as they were able to stop the Raiders last week, who are not a very good running offense? And it showed this week that even with their offense improving, the Panthers I'm speaking of here, their defense, rushing defense, is still not very good. So if you have a team that can keep up with them and keep the script all right, and you have a quality offense, so both Chase Brown and Zach Moss had strong days today. So the Panthers at the moment are still a team to target if you are a quality offense.
There you go. All right, and on the Carolina side, we've got Mr. Doolin Dalton, 25 for 40, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, 3 rushes for 9 yards. In the running backs, we have Mr. Hubbard, 18 for 104 and a touch, and 4 for 17 in the air. Miles Sanders, 6 for 32 on the ground and 3 for 14 in the air. Johnson, On the receiving side, 7 for 83 and a touch. Leggett, 6 for 66 and a touch. He also had 2 rushes for 10 yards. Mingo had 3 for 24 on the air, and Jatavion Sanders had 2 for 16 in the air.
All right. Yeah, go on to the next game there. I don't have too much more for this one.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Jacksonville at Houston. This was a nail biter, but Houston pulls out the victory 20-24, putting Jacksonville 0-4 and Houston to 3-1. Mr. Trevor Lawrence, 18 for 33, 169, 2 touchdowns. Only 3 for 5 on the ground for him, though. Mr. Bigsby, 7 for 90 on the ground. Etienne Jr., 11 for 50 on the ground, 1 for 10 in the air. Thomas Jr., 6 for 86 in the air with 1 receiving touchdown and 1 for 13 on the ground. Kirk was 7 for 61 and 1 touchdown, and Strange was 3 for 19 in the air.
This game was close and low scoring. We had the Texans have a late touchdown. I think there was like only 30 seconds left, give or take. Less than 2 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, to come back in this game here. So a great game for the Texans to keep their record alive, but they weren't moving the ball as well as I think it's just their running game. I think Akers is not good enough to take the place of Mixon. Their passing stats were fine, as both Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs had decent days. Nico Collins had a great day. Diggs had a very good game as well. So that's 0-4 now, right, for the Jaguars, and they played a little better. Their defense was a little more inspired, but man, they just can't get it together.
No, they can't. Yeah, it was definitely a passing day for Houston. Stroud was 27 of 40, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also had 3 for 17 on the ground. For the running backs, here's one I can try to say: Ogunbowale.
I don't have it in front of me to help me out. But it's like Uga Banalaway or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. 2 for 7 on the ground.
I don't have it in front, so I still messed that up myself. But
yeah, 2 for 7 on the ground, but he did have 4 for 47 in the air with a receiving touchdown. Akers was 13 for 53, and Taylor was 6 for 18 on the ground. The receivers, though, here we go. Mr. Nico Collins, Mecha Stud, 12 for 151 and a touch. Stephon Diggs, 5 for 69. And he had 1 for 6 on the ground. Schultz, 3 for 34, and then a couple of scrubs here at the bottom. But Stover was 1 for 27. He had a big catch. Woods was 1 for 10, and Mechie was 1 for 7.
All right. Also, one note here that I believe Etienne left the game with an injury, but he did return later. So I don't know his status going, into next week. I thought for a while that he was not going to come back, but then I could be mistaken, but I thought he got carries and his stats increased after the third quarter.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Pittsburgh at Indianapolis. Indy wins this one 24-27, putting Pittsburgh at their first loss, 3-1 now, and Indy at 2-2. On the Pittsburgh side, we have Fields 22 for 34, 312 yards, 1 touch. He also was 10 for 55 and 2 rushing touchdowns. Najee Harris was 13 for 19 on the ground, 3 for 54 in the air. Cordell Patterson, 6 for 43 on the ground and 2 for 19 in the air. Shampklin, there's the third and fourth back that we couldn't figure out.
Right.
1 for 5 on the ground. And then as the receivers, Pickens made his day up with yards, 7 for 113. Freiermuth, 5 for 57, and he got the touch. Washington, 2 for 31. Jefferson, 2 for 21. And Austin, 1 for 17.
All right. Yeah, we can go on the next one there.
Yeah. So Indy, Flacco had to come in. So Flacco was 16 for 26, 168, 2 touchdowns. Richardson, before he left the game, obviously, 3 for 4, 71 yards, and he 3 for 24 on the ground. Taylor, 21 rushes, 88 yards, and 1 touchdown. He also had 3 receptions for 20 yards. Sermon, I saw Sermon come in 5 rushes for 8 yards, but every time I looked up and he was on the field, and I was like, why is Taylor not on the field? And the receiving side, though, we have Downs, 8 for 82 and a touchdown. Pittman, 6 for 113. Ogletree, 1 for 15. Pierce, 1 for 9. And Mitchell, 1 for 10.
So Taylor, in I believe the fourth quarter on a drive, got his ankle rolled up a little bit. So they took him to the sideline. He got retaped up. He did come in a little bit, but he was banged up where they were trying to just run the clock out. So every time he got healthy, they were either punting because they didn't get the first down, or something like that. But he did roll up his ankle a little bit, but he did stay in the game after they retaped on the sideline. He did mention after the game, I don't think this was meant to be a slight, more of a just a matter of fact. He's like, oh man, it was great to play with a quarterback like Flacco. He mentioned that at the end of the game, like just nice to see. He's like, it's nice to see a quarterback like him work. Now, the obvious thing is like, are you comparing him to your other quarterback and how it might make you play or feel? I don't think he was necessarily doing that. He was just kind of giving props to the vet. But he definitely could tell that the offense had a little more consistency or purpose, at least in the plays, as opposed to just dropping back and either scrambling or chucking it downfield. So he said he enjoyed playing with Flacco.
Who was the quarterback when he first got to Indy?
Who's that?
When Taylor first got to Indy, who was Indy's quarterback?
Oh, he said he played with several good quarterbacks. I don't know, because I don't know if he played with, but he had Rivers for a year, Matt Ryan for a year.
Okay.
Minshew last year.
Okay.
It was only his 5th year, right? Maybe a 6th at the most. And he missed a year due to injury. So
yeah. Okay.
Did he have luck for a year?
That's what I'm trying to think. If he did, I can't picture it. So maybe
I doubt it, because he was such a high draft pick. It probably been in the year luck didn't play, and they probably had an awful year.
Right. Maybe Crazy Fish can let us know in the comments.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. LA Rams at Chicago. Chicago gets the win in this one, 18-24. Stafford was 20 for 29, 224 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. On the ground, Williams was 19 for 94 and a touch, 4 for 10 in the air. Rivers was 6 for 26 on the ground. In the receiving core, Atwell was 4 for 82. Whittington was 6 for 62. Parkinson's was 4 for 33, and Robinson was 2 for 37. Do you see a trend with those receiving numbers, Michael?
What's that? That number? No, I don't. I mean, maybe, but you tell me.
4 for 82, 6 for 62, 4 for 33, and 2 for 37. Those are some good distance throws there. Good distance catches. Like that. Those aren't little dink and dunks going on right there.
Right. Tutu Atwell seemed to show again that he is the class of this mixed match of a receiving core. I think they run more plays for him.
Yeah.
Like he'll get when he's on the field, they try to get him the ball, not all the time, but like, on a sweep or a different kind of misdirection, while the other guy's just running the standard combination of routes, and if he sees him, he might hit him. But they're not first read type players. Yeah.
All right. On the Chicago side, Williams was 17 for 23, 157 yards, 1 touch, 5 for 12 on the ground. The running backs, DeAndre Swift, 16 for 93 and a touch on the ground, 7 for 72 in the air. Johnson, 7 for 26 and a touch on the ground as well. The receiving core, Moore was 3 for 22 and a touch. Komet was 3 for 24. Allen was 3 for 19. And Adunze was 1 for 10.
We thought last week after we had Caleb Williams finally turn up, get some stats, and they went right back to that 12 points or less in terms of fantasy, not able to sustain any offense. It also didn't help the running game for passing wise. The running game was working so well. A very nice. I thought Swift wasn't going to get the ball too much because Roschon Johnson scored the first touchdown in the game on a short run, but Swift had some nice long runs. I think it was a touchdown run. This one where he hurdled over the lineman who was falling in front of him on the line of scrimmage, and from there he just went into 5th gear and took off. It was kind of fun to see, except that I didn't want to see it personally, but the actual play was fun to watch.
It's a good football play.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. This was a game that we're going to talk about later on in the week. Washington at Arizona. Washington takes this one 42-14, putting them at 3-1, and Arizona at 1-3. Daniels, this kid is on fire, dude. 26 of 30, 233 yards, 1 touch, 1 interception, 8 for 47 on the ground with a rushing touchdown. Their running backs, McNichols, 8 for 68 and 2 touchdowns and 1 for 6 in the air. Robinson Jr., 21 for 101 and a touch on the ground and 3 for 12 in the air. In their receiving core, McLaurin, 7 for 52 and a touch. Zacharias, 6 for 85. Ertz, 3 for 22. Noah Brown, 3 for 26. McCaffrey, 1 for 17. And Bates, 1 for 9.
So in this one, they had I don't know the duration of time they were doing this for, but they had like most accurate passers over whatever period of time. I don't think it's when starting rookie wise, because anyway, it was Drew Brees, then Jaden Daniels, then Tom Brady for most of efficient passer. Not passer rating, but pass attempts for completions.
Right.
I don't think those guys started that great because Brady came in his rookie year, but not after an injury, and he wasn't the main guy in the offense there. So I'm not sure what period of time they were going through, but he was matched up with these guys in terms of a passing percentage.
Yeah.
And this game, we thought it was going to be high scoring. We were hoping it was going to be more even, like more 24-24, 30-24, give or take. But the Cardinals could not do anything today. It was pretty hard to watch. I actually turned it off about in the middle of the third quarter. I'm like, all right, we got garbage time. All these other games that had big blowouts early, the other quarterbacks got points by the end. Not this one.
Not this one.
Did you happen to, like I said, I turned it off. Did anyone else throw any passes for the Cardinals?
No, it was all Murray.
I didn't know if he finished the game or not. The last plays I saw were all Trey Benson runs. So I don't know who actually handed them off. It could have been a different quarterback, but I didn't see any quarterback tosses either, other than Murray.
Yeah, so Murray was the only quarterback listed on the box score as far as passing goes. 16 for 22, 142 and a touch. He only had 1 for 3 on the ground, though. That's a big.
The Cardinals were at home against the easiest pass defense, and they got completely shut down. It's horrible.
And the Cardinals running game was Connor 18 for 104 and a touch, 1 for 9 in the air. Benson 9 for 50, and DeMarcado 4 for 24. In the air, we had Harrison Jr. I think he had the first touchdown of the game.
Yep.
5 for 45 and a touch. Dortch 4 for 38. Wilson 3 for 38, and Higgins 2 for 12.
I'm glad I did not double dip in this game for a start of the week because this is awful.
Yeah. All right, moving on to another game that was pretty much a blowout. New England at San Francisco. San Francisco wins this one 13-30. On the New England side, we have Brissett, 19 for 32, 168 yards, 1 touch, 1 interception. Their running game was Gibson, 6 for 12 on the ground, but he had 3 for 67 in the air. Stevenson fumbled again, 13 for 43 on the ground, 4 for 19 in the air, and Hasty 3 for 15 on the ground. And this is where it gets bad for the New England. Their receiving core: Hooper 2 for 13 with a touch, Polk 3 for 30, Douglas 3 for 13, Henry 2 for 12, and this guy Boutte 1 for 11. Like, who are these guys?
So yeah, the game started out kind of even for the first couple drives as the Patriots are moving the ball, but that fumble killed the drive from Ramondre Stevenson, and that kind of he was benched for a little bit after that. And then the other guys made mistakes and weren't doing anything. Like, all right, you're our best player, even though you're messing up, get back in there. And I think he messed up again. They couldn't get out of their own way. The interception that Brissett threw was picked off and then ran back for a touchdown. So they just every time they were trying to get something going, it turned around the other way quickly. They were finally able to salt this game away with handing the ball up to Mason and get some late yards. That was nice to see. And what else there? Oh, so is Brissett getting ready to just make way for Drake May here? Their defensive opponents were all really tough. If you count the Jets, did they play the Jets? Probably, but I'm not sure. They played the Seahawks, I know, and they played the Niners. So those are tough defenses. We're thinking that Brissett was there just to take the early hits. And
I don't know, man. But who is Drake May going to throw it to? Hooper, Polk, Douglas, Henry, Boutte?
I don't disagree. I'm not saying it's this week, but I'm saying at a certain point, if they won that first game, you're like, oh, maybe they're going to do something. Once they're 1-6 or whenever their bye week comes up, it's going to be time to put the rookie in and see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, and you're thin at the skilled position when Stevenson has fumbled every game so far, every week so far. So, and he's still in. That would not be a thing if it was a Bill Belichick team. Yeah. Just saying. All right, San Francisco side, Purdy, 15 for 27, 288, 1 touch, 1 interception, 5 for 11 on the ground. Running backs, Mr. Mason, 24 carries, 123 yards and a touch, 2 for 37 in the air. Juszczyk was 1 for 12 on the ground. On the receiving side, Kittle, 4 for 45 and a touch. Jennings, 3 for 88. Samuel, 3 for 58 in the air and 2 for 14 on the ground. And Ayuk, 2 for 48.
And Kittle had an awesome touchdown catch, the only touchdown pass from Purdy. He just threw it up, and he was the tallest guy there and the strongest guy. Just got his hands up above the crowd and pulled it down. It was a great catch. And on that particular drive, that was the one that they called back a touchdown due to a holding on Kittle when Mason was running a nice, it might have been about a 28-yard kind of across middle screen where he ran out on the sideline. On that particular drive, he had 3 touchdown passes. He threw a touchdown pass. The Mason got called back. Then he threw on that a touchdown pass to Juszczyk, and that got called back to a penalty. The third touchdown was the charm. So he finished with 1 touchdown in a stat book, but he had 3 touchdowns on that drive, his most effective drive ever, as Purdy got that last one to stick for George Kittle. And they just, once this game kind of spread out, it wasn't, for a moment there, the Niners weren't scoring after they got up by that 13 points. It stayed 27-14 or 27-13 for a little while longer than you would have liked.
Yeah.
I was getting a little flashback to the Rams comeback from last week where it was the same thing. They were up by enough and just didn't kind of close the door. But the Patriots they weren't good enough to get any more points on the board there, and they were able to run the clock out towards the end of the game.
Yeah. It was pretty much lopsided there. All right, the next one here, not a fun box score to read, but we're gonna read it anyway. I don't know how they got to these points based on this box score. Cleveland at Las Vegas. Las Vegas wins this one 16-20. On the Cleveland side, Watson, 24 for 32, 176 yards, 1 touch, 1 interception, 8 for 32 on the ground. Their running back core, Ford, 10 for 58 on the ground, 7 for 27 in the air. Foreman, nothing. 4 for 2 on the ground, 1 for 5 in the air. Judy, 6 for 72 in the air. Whitehart, 3 for 13 and 1 receiving touchdown. Cooper, 4 for 35. Moore, 1 for 11. Akins, 1 for 10.
So we mentioned that Devontae Adams missed this game, but also so did a Max Crosby on the defensive line for the Raiders here. I only watched the first half of this game a little more attentively here, and I thought scoring not worrying about the scoring here. I thought that Watson looked a little more peppy today, if you will. Sometimes he looks a little lethargic. He looked a little better. The touchdown they had was it was a little misdirection. They threw it to a wide open tight end, that Whitehart guy, and it just kind of leaked out, and he just had an easy toss to him. He looked a little better. I didn't see the sacks. How many sacks did the Raiders have? Do you happen to have that or be able to find that?
I did not have that. I'm sorry. I only have the offensive box.
Because he's been getting sacked a ton. I didn't watch the second half so much, but he had a little more pep in his step. I think the defense of the Browns, they're injured as well. Myles Garrett was in and out of the lineup all day today with Max Crosby. Both offenses aren't great. Both defenses are the stronger part of these two teams, and it was a low-scoring game. I didn't see anything particularly bad, just not being able to convert on third downs, for example. Once you can't convert on third downs, you got to punt the ball away. And they just kind of kept going back and forth in that way.
Yeah. And on the Vegas side, Mr. Minshew, 14 for 24, 130 yards, no touchdowns. Their running backs was Madison, 5 for 60 on the ground, White, 17 for 50 on the ground, and McAllister, 2 for 11 on the ground. Receivers, they had Tucker, 5 for 41 in the air, 1 for 3 on the ground. Turner did not have any receptions, but he did have 1 rushing attempt for 18 yards and 1 touchdown. Myers, 5 for 49 in the air. Bowers, 2 for 19 in the air and 1 for 12 on the ground. And Bryant, 2 for 21. So kind of a mishmash of names going on here. No fantasy value that I can honestly see on the Vegas side.
Trey Tucker had the more fun plays today, but it didn't add up to enough for a big stat line. But every time I looked up and there was a little bit of a fanfare with the benches kind of getting up and patting guys on the helmet, it always was Trey Tucker on an end around or a nice catch down the sideline or something. So he's the most exciting player right now, but they don't have a high-powered offense right now at all.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Another undefeated team, KC at the Chargers. This one was only 17-10. KC stays undefeated at 4-0 and the Chargers at 2-2. For KC, Mahomes was 19 of 29, 245 and a touch and an interception, 5 for 12 on the ground. And they had a couple running backs doing something here. 3 of them. Hunt, 14 for 69 on the ground, 2 for 16 in the air. P. Ryan, he got the touchdown, 5 for 14 on the ground with the touch. And Steele, only 2 for 6. I believe Steele had an early fumble, and I don't think he really got more chances after that. Worthy in the air, 3 for 73 and a touch. Kelsey, 7 for 89. Gray, 4 for 40. And Watson, 2 for 27.
So we did mention going in, a couple weeks ago when this backfield was getting a little murky with the Pacheco injury, that Kareem Hunt was the more longer term target. I still had P. Ryan as a shorter term guy just because I thought he had a more defined type of role, and I didn't trust. Now I didn't see a lot of steal in all fairness, but he didn't look that great to me. He had a decent stat line last week with carries and yards, but he has fumbled at least 2 games now, and that's not going to do it, especially when you have a non-high powered offense like the Chiefs who just can't score. You can't give the ball back to the other team if you're only going to score 17 points. Yeah. And the big news of the day here, of course, is that Rashee Rice left the game with an injury. Horrible. I haven't seen an update in the last half hour or so, but all indications are this is not good. I don't know what not good means as in terms of what type of injury, but I'm assuming it's going to be a duration of time. He's going to miss multiple weeks, if not the rest of the season.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the Charger side. Herbert, 16 for 27, 179 yards, 1 touch, no interceptions. And their rushing game was Dobbins, 14 for 32, and Edwards, 6 for 19. McConkey was the touchdown, 5 for 67, and the receiving touchdown. Palmer, 3 for 36. Disley, 2 for 24. And then we got a couple of Johnston 1 for 9, Hurst 1 for 6, and Matlock 1 for 7.
So obviously the Chiefs have seem to be a pretty good defense. They obviously were last year, and they seem to be holding up this way as they're winning these lower scoring games. But the J.K. Dobbins juice seems to be slowing down. That's 2 weeks in a row. Might be matchup dependent, and that it's fine if you know those guys are going to be bad against tough matchups, and you know they have a chance to be good against good matchups. Those are okay guys to have on your team. But he seems not to be able to do it in these games against some higher powered defenses. Also, I forgot to mention in terms of Kansas City, not good because of the circumstance, obviously, but once Rice went out, they definitely started to target Travis Kelce a lot more. He didn't have a lot of yards per catch, but what do you have, 7 catches for like 88 yards or something like that?
Yeah, 7 for 89, yep.
Look at that. All right. So, so he was definitely getting a lot more targets. So he might the combination. We thought the passing game was going to be put on Mahomes' shoulder with the loss of Pacheco. Now that Hunt's back, that's going to help that a little bit. But Hunt is no Pacheco, at least at this stage of his career. And with the loss of another receiver, this might get back to a passing game between Mahomes and Kelce. We'll see how this goes. Kelce's older, but he's the main guy now, I think, because Worthy's not taking over as a target hog type of player.
No, but he does. Worthy did have the big plays though, 3 for 73 and the touch. I mean, that's going to be their big play guy now that Rice is out.
Right.
So we'll see what happens there.
But Rice was their like target guy for like moving the chains.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think Kelce's going to go back to those 6 and 8 yard targets to get on schedule, and then they're going to go for the big play with a Worthy.
Exactly. Yep. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. On the Charger side, though, I know they want to run the ball, and they got 2 good backs to do it, but nobody's scared of McConkey, Palmer, Disley, Johnston, Hurst.
Right.
And, nobody's scared of them. So.
Right.
All right. Though that's a wrap for those games. We only have the Sunday night game and the 2 Monday night games left.
All right. We're going to do a little. What time we have here? Actually, do a little quick look here. I had it up. It'll take me half a second here. Just fantasy wise, what teams do we have that have this game that can swing the balance? Man, none of these games are really there. We had some close games earlier. The closest game might be yours and mine. Right now, I'm down by 2 points. I have 2 players left to go tomorrow night. Ben's brilliant team is done. So I'm going to need Calvin Risky. Oh my gosh. And the Tennessee defense. I just need these 2. The good thing for our league, there are no negative points. I need a combination of a receiver and a defense to get 2.25 points. Come on, guys. You can do it for the first win of the season. An awful win, but we have a chance. Please don't let me down this time. And then you had a great day. That Rashee Rice injury really hurt you. You're still down right now about 16
and a half. 16 and a half. Yeah.
He's done, though. So you got 2 players tomorrow or 1?
Just 1. My 2 player. He was done, and I had Rice tonight and Walker possibly tomorrow. So I had 2 players left to get the 16 and a half. And then I was down to 1 player to get the 16 and a half.
So that is not an automatic at all.
No.
Here's the bad thing. Wait. The Lions are one of the best rushing defenses.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that to change your thing. I'm just saying that's going to make it tougher to get the 16 points. But really, you're going to need a touchdown in 4 catches, and he hopes he gets enough yards.
Yeah, exactly.
If he doesn't get 4 catches and touchdown, he's not going to get enough yards to do it by itself.
Yeah, but look, Jonathan Taylor, he got 18 points for me on the ground, and Walker is a stud. So hopefully he's back and healthy, and we'll go from there. And it's okay. I'm okay losing. I was expecting to lose to Mac Daddy too, so I have much respect for him. His players did well. The only thing I was wondering about him, and I can't really talk trash now because it's already almost over. He had Caleb Williams as his quarterback, but he also started the Rams defense, and it didn't make any sense to me. Does that make sense to you?
I don't think those are his main players, so he's not expecting any one of them to do. Those are his weaker players, so I don't think he cared. I don't think he's going to try and. But I hear you.
Yeah, it's
does he have another defense on his team to even play?
He had Denver's defense, but he had Deshaun Watson on his bench. So I don't know. Either way, good win, good future win there, Mac Daddy too.
All right. Let's look at some early waiver wire targets here, as we have some players that are still floating around out there that might help your team. We'll let you know in our later episode if these guys are worth picking up and for how much. But the guys who caught my attention or are still on this list, we have Trey Tucker from the Raiders. Like I said, with the Devontae Adams injury especially, he was already on this list last week after having such a nice game last week. His stats weren't great today. The stats for the whole team in the passing game were not great today. But with Devontae Adams out, he's more of a focal point, as is Jacoby Myers. These Raiders wide receivers aren't great, but they have an opportunity to get a little bit more work with the injuries to Devontae Adams. So keep an eye on these guys. What other early waiver wire thoughts you have out there?
Let me pull up my list here. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit slacking.
I know there's a couple old quarterbacks that might catch your attention.
Oh yeah, so Sam Darnold's still out there.
No, Darnold's not out there.
Not Sam Darnold.
You think the other redhead? The other redhead. Yes. Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
There you go.
Andy Dalton's still out there, and now Joe Flacco is out there. So just watch what happens with AR. Let's make sure that he's not completely disabled and out for next week. But Flacco and Dalton and Aaron Rodgers are playing. What year is it?
Yeah.
If you need quarterback help, and some teams do, you got these guys. They're gonna have higher floors than some of these younger quarterbacks. They're not gonna have terribly high ceilings, but you know what you're gonna get from them. So don't be afraid to put them in if the matchup is right and you're in need of a quarterback.
Also, keep in mind, bye weeks do start next week. I should have had it out in front of me, and I'll do that for next time. I'll have that out. But so I'm not sure who's on bye next week, but the bye weeks are starting. So yeah, you might have to go a little deeper in this pickup here to get players that'll help you. You might need to start some guys that you wouldn't have started in the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you mentioned Wicks and Nichols and stuff, right?
Not yet. I'm getting there. Ready to do it now.
Oh, okay. You're getting there now. Okay, sorry.
All right. So we have another player here, the real estate agent, Jeremy McNichols, for the Commanders. He had a 2 touchdown day today, but he still also had 84 yards. A lot of that was in clock killing time. But even so, Austin Eckler was getting a lot of work. It was definitely Brian Robinson as the lead back, but there was value there for Austin Eckler, and we're not sure how long he's going to miss with that concussion. It was a pretty bad hit. I believe he's the one who had a laceration on his ear. He got hit where it hurt him more than just a rattle of the head. So, pardon me. So we're not sure how much time he's going to miss, but if he misses time, there has been enough work for both running backs for that Commander backfield. Keep an eye on Jeremy McNichols. Also, we have here Dontavian Wicks had a strong game today with 2 touchdowns. He's one of those guys now that Jordan Love is back. The receivers are going to open up with some opportunities here. They have 4 quality players. Jaden Reed seems to be the alpha, but those other 3 guys are going to be mix and matching with some production. So keep that in mind as a potential target. What else do you have for any early waiver wire thoughts?
Possibly Josh Downs.
Yeah.
He's got gonna have keep an eye on the quarterback situation, obviously. But if we're gonna have Flacco in, though, Flacco is not going to start to run options. He's going to look for his receivers. So Josh Downs is gonna have his chances to get open depending on what his schedule looks like coming up. And we can pull that up real fast, actually, if we have a little bit of time here. He's got Jacksonville next week, or Indy has got Jacksonville next week. And so, Jacksonville's got not the best pass defense, but not the worst either. So possibility to put some points up on that receiving side.
All right. If you want a Chargers receiver, and I don't know why you would, Lad McConkey got back in the end zone today, if I'm not mistaken. So he's that's not a lot of passing going around there. But again, with the bye weeks coming up, he is one of their more consistent receivers. Quentin Johnson had that little bit of a splash, but even those were on minimal catches and getting just touchdowns for those couple catches. So Lad McConkey might be the number one receiver to target in terms of LA, the Chargers, but they're not an offense you really want to go for. But just keep an eye out. He is available, at least in the Wingman Fantasy Football League. Also, there's one more player I thought here. Where'd he go? Dallas Goedert. Sorry, Dallas Goedert is still out there. He did okay today. The passing offense was awful today. He might need to be not the only guy. So A.J. Brown did return to practice this week. He might be getting closer to returning. We are not sure about Devontae Smith, as he had the concussion as well. So I think if he's on the field either by himself or with one other guy, he is a viable player. If both guys come back, he's someone you don't really need to go after. But keep an eye on the practice reports for the other receivers for the Eagles there, as Goddard is still a quality player. All these guys kept dropping tight ends. You guys were tempting me and teasing me after that rant last week. Kincaid got dropped. Goddard was still out there. Bowers got dropped. There was someone else. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. These are better than all of my players on my team right now. But I can't have 5 tight ends. Can't do it.
Well, but Mike, that's what happens when our listeners are listening to what you have to say about tight ends. And they're like, well, we should just start dropping our tight ends then.
Yeah. Yep. I'm glad they're listening. It made it hard because these are early round picks and they stink. But their names are still valuable, especially when you have people like Demarcus Robinson as a potential starter and Rome Odunze on your team. You need all the help you can get. I didn't touch him. I only picked up Bowers, and that was because of the Devontae Adams injury. But Bowers is going to go right back to the shuffle there.
Yeah, and I don't want to say anything to instigate anything, but Rome Odunze was on my team, and he was dropped, and then he was picked up by you. And he doesn't really doing anything. So
he had 20 points last week on the bench. He had his best game of the year after you dropped him. I just put him in because I was sick of tight ends. Now I'm sick of receivers too. I'm sick of any.
So basically what you're saying is you've got Calvin Ridley and Rome Odunze, and you don't know who's up and who's down and what's going on where.
Yeah, I'm saying you sabotage my team. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up right here. Thank you so very much for watching another episode of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League podcast. Oh, I've got some news here to add. I forgot about that. Go ahead and check out our podcast versions. Our audio feeds are on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. I'm out of order here. YouTube Music. And now we're on Amazon Music. So if that's one of the apps. You got something? Or is that just a reaction?
Can I say, hey, Alexa, play Wingman Fantasy Football podcast?
I don't know. I just put up there yesterday. I don't know how that's going to work.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah. And I don't know why I didn't do it earlier, because that was the easiest one to upload of all the sites I've been to so far. It took me 10 seconds when I actually did it. So we're on Amazon Music now as well. If you want to get our audio or video feeds, just go to wingmanentertainment.net/podcast. If you want our video feeds where you can leave comments, get into our mailbag, go ahead and check out our page at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube. And when you're over there, go ahead and leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. We will get you in our mailbag. We want to share all of the thoughts of our viewers out there with the rest of the world. So with that being said, guys, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty.
And in fantasy, as in life, we are all just trying to predict the unpredictable.
Calvin Risky.